Welcome back to the Who's Reality Cooking podcast. I'm your host, Audrey Johns, and I'm here with Kayla Giddings, and I am just so excited to have her as my first person on season 2. Kayla, how are you?
I am good. I'm ready for the new year and everything. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for making time. And for those watching, can you introduce who's in your lap right now?
Yes, this is my baby Janet, and she will not leave me alone. So she just wants some loving. So she'll be here for
She's
this.
so sweet. Anybody watching this pup is just looking her in the eyes like she's the greatest thing that's ever happened. I love it.
Oh my gosh.
I love it. Well, Kayla, let us, give us some insight as to the different shows you've done.
So I started doing these shows, I think around 2017. So I've been around on the shows for a little bit. I started out with Cake Wars, and I feel like that's just one of the most well-known shows. Everyone kind of knows that. And from there, I just did more. I did Cake Wars Champs. I've been on shows like Food Network Challenge, which was a really big personal one for me, because that one has such a history on Food Network. And I've been on Santa's Baking Blizzard, Hershey's Chocolate Meltdown, Netflix's Is It Cake? Season 2, which was just another milestone for me. And then most recently, Harry Potter Wizards of Baking.
Oh, very cool. So we've had Liz and Juan on the show who were on
Okay.
the Harry Potter thing. How was that? What was that like? And is it already out?
It is out. So the whole season actually just aired. It's still like doing reruns and it was really popular. And I think it's still coming out. They're still rolling it out in different countries because I'll still get like a big influx of, people like, oh my God, rooting for you. And so that's always really cool because it'll just be people all around the world. But Liz and Juan I love them both so much. So I had never worked with Juan before, but I did watch him on Netflix on School of Chocolate. And so during the casting process, we actually went and we auditioned to be on the show, which was a first for me as well. And when I saw him, I was like, oh my gosh, because I'm very competitive. So I was like scoping out the competition. Like, I was like, what? I was fangirling because I love him. And then Liz, I competed with her before. So it was really cool to kind of Elizabeth, to kind of reconnect. So
That
it's
is
really good. I'm making like lifelong friends in this whole deal, so it's really
I
good.
love that so much. And as I've mentioned before, I was on a show and I made some lifelong friends as well. Who are you super close with? How do you guys communicate on a regular basis? How do you keep those friendships alive with people that you worked with for such a short amount of time?
It is so crazy because sometimes I'll say that some of my closest friends don't even live here with me. So I'm from Louisiana and I have a lot of friends here, but some of my closest friends, they're in the cake world and they're just all over the country. And one of them is Liz Merrick. So she was on Is It Cake 2 with me. And we've done some cake work together before. We were brand ambassadors together for this fondant company, Renshaw Fondant. And we still chat on the phone all the time. We plan trips. She came down to New Orleans. We hang out. So it's really fun. Yeah, I think I probably made the most friends on Is It Cake because I guess we were there for so long. Justin with Cake It with Justin. He's one of my really good friends. I've actually done work with him since the show. I've flown out to see him because he lives right around LA. And Elizabeth. So seeing her again for trying out basically to be on Wizards of Baking was really cool and fun. And I told her, I was like, if you don't get picked for this show, because she's perfect. Like she's from London and everything like that. So, and she did. And so whenever we kind of got the reveal of everyone who was there, it was so amazing. And you love these people. You're experiencing one of these wild, crazy things that not very many people get to experience with these people. So it's really special.
That's so cool. Now, did you and Liz, were you already aware that you were both going to be competing, or was it a surprise to see each other in that moment?
It's a surprise. So you basically, I had some ideas because like I'm just scoping every little thing out, but basically everyone kind of met up in London for the first time. And so whenever you're looking around the room and you're seeing who's there, it's all for the first time and it's really like intimidating. And so I always go into every show with so much confidence. I'm like, yeah. And then I see everyone in there and I'm like, oh God. But it's fun. It's like part of the ride.
I love it so much. So, what I did want to ask you, and how I kind of want to change up the season a little bit for season two, is do you have maybe a fun behind the scenes story or something? And for the listeners and those watching, Kayla has to be careful. She's under contract. She can't tell us too much, but is there something you can share? Something that maybe over a dinner conversation you would tell your friends? Like, tell us a little story.
Yes. So one of my favorite stories is from Is It Cake? So first of all, every time that we'd be in the studio, it was excruciatingly cold. And so I don't know why it was just so cold, but like we would have to stand there for so long and they shorten it all up. But the process of the judging and things where it'll take like 10 minutes or less really in real time is like 3 hours of you just standing there. And so got a lot of self-discipline out of that. But it was so crazy cold. And I remember there was an episode, it was the first episode, there was a crab. So Liz Merrick was making a crab. And so there were real crabs there. And so we didn't really know, like, are they dead crabs? Like what's up with the crabs? They're real crabs. They kind of smelled crabby. And so no one really thought about it. And then it was right before judging, I believe. And one of the crabs started to move. And I was like, my God, because I'm from Louisiana. I'm like, oh no, they froze those crabs because we'll do crab boils. I was like, they froze the crabs. The crabs are alive and they're starting to thaw out. And that crab it's gonna walk away. And it was just so hilarious because I kept thinking like the competitor in me was like, oh my God, what if the judges come out and that crab starts moving? Then they're going to know, obviously it's not Kate, but we were dying because like the lengths that they go to on these shows. And I was like, no, this crab.
That is too funny. Oh man, and these are the moments I kind of wish they kept on the show because it's
Oh my
just,
God.
it's so interesting. And I know a little bit of the backstory of why you guys have to, stand there for so long, but to keep the magic alive, we
Yeah,
will keep that
it's
under
so
wraps.
you're right. It's so funny because I love watching the shows back. Usually the shows will air, months and months after you film them. And so it brings back memories for me. But then also I want to see how it's cut and edited because that is one thing that I think is pretty clear to the world is that they can cut and edit it however they like. And one thing really crazy in episode, I think it was like episode 5. So I can ride a unicycle. It's just like a weird skill of mine. And they brought out a unicycle and Miko was there. I love Miko. Oh my gosh. I've kept in touch with him. I even met up with him in his hometown in the Philippines. Like, it's crazy. Anyway, he was there. And so they were like, Miko, help Kayla. And she's going to ride the unicycle around. And we filmed me riding this unicycle around the Is the Cake set for like 30 minutes. It was a circus and it didn't make the cut. And I was like, no way. Like, how is this not good TV? But I guess it just didn't make sense with the episode. But it's just, fun little stuff like that now I can tell people that. And it is really interesting. And
Oh, that's
yeah.
so funny to think of all the stuff that just ended up on the cutting room floor. And you're just thinking, man, that was such a missed opportunity. Oh, wow. That is a serious skill. I have seen people try to ride them. My partner is a bike enthusiast. There's no way he can ride it. It
Oh
is
my
just,
gosh.
wow. So, do you have a unicycle at home? Is this how you bake on a regular basis?
Listen, the unicycle actually is yes, I do have one. And it is pretty close to my heart. And I actually owe all of my TV success to it, I say, because when I actually decided to just apply to Cake Wars, I didn't even think that they would even look at the application. And so I made it to the final round of casting and they said, submit a video. And they said, really make sure that you set yourself apart. And so I was thinking, like, how can I set myself apart? So I was like, I'm just going to ride my unicycle in this video. And I mean, it had nothing to do with cake, but I got my little sister to video me. And then I fell. And she was like, oh, we'll redo it. We'll redo it. And I was like, no, we will not. And so I kept that. And then this was a while back, obviously 2017. So video editing was just becoming like it was, only a couple apps really to edit some videos. And so I like edited it. And when I fell, I just made it go to like beep. And I was like, I promise Miss Kate, better than I could ride a unicycle. Anyway, they called me back and they were like, this is amazing. This is gold. Oh my God, we love it. And then they were like, but we are so sorry you're not going to make it on the show. And I was like, okay, well, thanks for calling. And then 2 months later, they were casting again. And they called me and they were like, we remembered you and your unicycle video. And would you come be on Cake Wars? So
Love that. And that's such a great tip. It's the biggest one that everybody usually says is set yourself apart in some way. And I think that's so cool. So my question for you then to follow up on this is very often these companies use the same casting director or the same casting team. Do you think that it was, purposeful that they had the unicycle there for Is It Cake, or was it just used for something like how did that even happen? It's a completely different show.
yeah. So in the beginning, they were asking us a lot of questions about our talent. And does anybody have any weird talents? Does anybody, anything like this? And so it had come up because, I mean, other than making cakes, it's really my only other talent. I'm like, I don't know. And so I think maybe that so that was episode 1. I think that they were sort of questioning everyone. And they asked Pete as well. Pete Tidwell, he was on the show, and they asked him what his talent was, and it was juggling. And also on that episode, he juggled, and I don't think that didn't make the cut either. So I think they were trying to set up maybe to get some different shots. Maybe they had some different ideas for what that episode might look like. But yeah,
I see a whole circus spinoff happening in your future.
Sign me up.
I know. Hey, I know they didn't Is It Cake do a Christmas special?
They did. I was so jealous of that because I love Christmas. Oh my gosh, I'm such a festive girl. They did. So I'm like, oh, if they do that again, I really want to be like putting my energy out there for that.
Absolutely.
Or a
Absolutely.
Halloween one. That would be good.
Yes. Yes. And it could be creepy clowns, and they could use your unicycle, and it would be a whole thing. Are you listening? Is It Cake? This is something
Yes.
that we need. So, Kayla, you said that you're from Lafayette, Louisiana. And can you explain to those who have never been to Louisiana? By the way, I grew up in Harvey, so I kind of know a little bit. But can you explain to all of us how close it is to New Orleans, and maybe explain how that might have, changed the way that you cook or the way that you bake?
Yes. So Lafayette, Louisiana is a Cajun. It's really the heart of Cajun country. And so I'm a full-on Cajun girl, crawfish boils, dancing on the porch, patio, parties, like with family. That's what we do here. It's a really happy place. And I'm about 2.5 hours from New Orleans, and I love it there. So rich in culture as well. It's more of like a Creole area. Louisiana, it's so crazy. It's literally like this big cultural experience, and you can experience so many different things so close together. But a lot of the recipes that I have or at least my best ones, are from my grandmother's. And I think that being from Louisiana, where the food is center of everything. So every family gets together, somebody's bringing food. And also, you better not show up empty handed. I bring the dessert, and I already told, that's the thing. I do not cook. Well, I am cook. I'm learning to cook because I have a child and she needs to eat. But I don't like to. I like to bake. And so anyway, it's all about, making people feel good. I never show up with, you cannot show up with something sweet and delicious and not see a smile or like have it received well. So I don't know. It's just the friendly, fun environment that I grew up in. And I think that really, I can put that into my baking.
I love that so much. And one New Orleans girl to another, or one Louisiana girl to another, I have to ask a favor, because my partner always teases me how I say the word milk. And I think it's a little remnant of my New Orleans accent. So could you say milk for me?
Yes. It's so deep. So New Orleans accent, I don't have one, but I can recognize them so easily. It's close to like Boston or something. I don't know. It's like a crazy thing. So I would say, I say milk.
See,
can I have a glass of milk?
He says I say it almost with an I. So I thought, well, it's got to be a New Orleans thing. I don't know, but I figure if I've got some.
It could be, but yeah. Yeah, you're like milk.
Yeah, I was trying. He says it sounds like milk instead of milk. Okay. I'm like, all right, that might be a New Orleans girl thing. I may have to cut this out. This might not be for everyone. It might just be for us.
Yes.
So since you're in Lafayette and since it's Cajun and great food and great culture, can you give us some tips if somebody's, visiting either New Orleans or just Louisiana in general? Where do they have to go? Is there a bakery they have to go to? Is there a restaurant they have to go to? Is there something they have to do while they're there? Because otherwise it's just not complete.
I think maybe not so much where you have to go, but what you have to try to eat. So I would say if you are in Louisiana, and I'm telling you, the cuisine between Lafayette, where I'm from, and then 2.5 hours away in New Orleans, it's totally different. But some things that are staples are a king cake. Now, New Orleans is very strict about their king cake season. Like, they don't even start making those babies until Mardi Gras season, which actually started yesterday. So usually it's about the January to February. Now, this year, Mardi Gras in March. So, there's a little time there. So if you come to Louisiana, try to get a king cake in Lafayette. You can pretty much get them year round. There's always like some local grocery stores making them up. But if you could get one from a bakery, that's best. Or, okay, so king cake, put that on your list. Number 2, crawfish. It has to be crawfish season though. So that's another tricky one. All these seasons. It is crawfish season right now. And it is so good. But if you do it, beware, you will develop a craving for it. Like, it's so good. It's a problem. Do you love it? Okay.
I loved it. So I grew up sitting on the stoop with my friends. Their parents had made crawfish, sucking on the heads, being completely fine eating it. And then I move away and I have developed the biggest shellfish allergy. There's no way I could do it again now. But, I have experienced all that is wonderful about crawfish.
That is really good. Well, I'm glad you got to know them. But oh my gosh, people who tell me they have a shellfish allergy, my heart breaks for you because of that reason. And then I guess if you don't live in Louisiana, it's not that big of a deal. And the third thing, and this is strictly if you are in the Acadiana area, which is Lafayette and surrounding, is boudin. You don't want to get it anywhere else. I don't know what they do in everywhere else, but boudin, for those that don't know, it looks like a link of sausage. Maybe it's kind of in some casing, but inside is meat and rice and all of these other delicious things that I'm not exactly sure of. And I really don't want to know. Okay. I don't want to know what's in there. I'm not.
You don't want to know how the sausage is made.
Yeah. Like someone told me once they put liver in there and I was like, no, I'm not, don't ask questions. But you can get it in the link or you can get it in this fried ball. And it's the single reason I will never move away from Lafayette, just so that everyone knows how good
That's amazing. Oh, so many great tips. And just because I know people will buy a king cake, cut into it, and then say, why is there a baby in here? Can you explain to the viewers and the listeners what the baby is in there for and all of that?
Yes. So there's a baby in the king cake. Now there's like choking hazards and all of this. So you would get the king cake and the bakery would hide it inside. Now whoever, if I buy a king cake, which I don't buy them, I make them, obviously. You have to put it inside yourself. So there's this little plastic baby and it goes inside the king cake. And the tradition here, my family's tradition, and the one that mostly that I've come into contact with, and they differ, is that you bring a king cake to the party and whoever gets the slice with the baby is in charge of bringing the king cake at the next party. So
I am so glad. See, I wanted to tell people that because I'm hearing all these different things about it. I'm like, no. It's great. Yeah, you're lucky because you got it, but it's not about luck. It's about you're up next. But I have to tell you, so I have not lived in New Orleans since maybe the early 90s, late 80s. And I did not know that now you have to put the baby in the king cake yourself. So do you just like flip it over and how do you do it so it's hidden?
Yeah. So, some king cakes are braided, like a braided bread. Some king cakes are like the rolled bread. So if it's braided, it's really easy to kind of stick it into one of the crevices. But if it's just like a rolled flat bread, yeah, you just kind of have to like put it under somewhere and make it like, you can't see. And there's different ways they put the 3 colors on the king cake, the purple, green, and gold. And so there's, either sprinkles or some kind of syrupy stuff on the top. And so it's real easy to kind of hide it in there. But the king cake is very symbolic. And so I'm not even going to go into all of that because it's heavily rooted in like religion and all these things. And it goes back, so far all the way to France and everything like that. So it's just really crazy, and that it's still going, today.
Man, and that's something I miss. I had a friend who made me a king cake for my birthday one year, and it was just the greatest moment because I hadn't had them in so many years. And they're made in so many different ways. And do you have a favorite? Because I know our favorite, I think it had lemon custard in it. My family's favorite. Do you have a favorite? Because I know they sell them with different flavors.
Yes, the fillings. So the way that my king cake that I make is like a braided bread and it has cinnamon in it. And I mean, all king cakes have cinnamon in it. And then, I let the bread rise, I bake it, and then I stuff it with whatever filling. So my favorite is pecan praline filling. That is my favorite. And I also prefer the king cakes that so there's always an icing on top. Sometimes there'll be like a sanding sugar for the purple, the green, and the gold. And then sometimes they'll just do like this colorful icing. I like the sanding sugar because it adds like a little crunch to it. So good. I'm gonna have to go get me one. And then there's a local donut shop. It's called Meshes Donuts, and they make them. And this is very controversial. Like you either love it or you're like, get that crap out of here. I love it. I'm like, give me that donut king cake. So there's all these crazy things about it.
I am so glad I have somebody I can geek out about king cake with right now. Thank you.
I mean, there should be a course, like
there should be. Have you ever made a king cake or anything, Mardi Gras themed on any of these shows?
Yes. So, I was really upset because Is It Cake, the episode that I got eliminated on, I made a king cake flavored cake. So it was really just like a sponge cake that was sort of cinnamon, and then I put pecan praline in it because that's the best. And when you get eliminated, I guess it depends how you get eliminated, but the way that I was eliminated was they found my cake. So when you get eliminated, they don't even taste the cake. You kind of just like, oh, well, we found your cake. You got to go. And I was like, this was going to be the best one. And they didn't even get to taste it. But yeah, I do try to, if I can, kind of bring some of my, Louisiana heritage in whenever I can.
I love that so, so much. So since we've talked about where you're at and completely geeked out over all things Louisiana food, where are you working now? And can you tell us a little bit about your day-to-day outside of cuddling with your sweet pup there?
Yeah, this girl. Yeah. So day to day, I have been lucky enough since Is It Cake to resign from being a teacher. So I was a full-time teacher. I taught high school and it was really cool, really fun. I did speech and theater and English. And so since then, which it's been about 3 years now, I teach cake classes locally. I'll teach about 2 or 3. It could be, I have a pedophore class coming up. It could be a cookie decorating class, which is really fun. So I am now teaching, but a lot less but a lot more fun. And I'll still do custom cakes. So I'll do wedding cakes here and there. Those are just sometimes a little bit crazy hectic. But yeah, I do all from my house, all from my kitchen. And I guess my big goal outside of TV is to have an online school. It's like honestly been a goal for a year. I've kind of did like a personal self-check on what were my goals last year since we're going into the new year. And like, which ones did we not hit, And so that was one of them. Yeah. I think it's good to do like a little, like, be for real. This was your goal last year. So now you need to double down.
Oh, yeah.
So that's what I do day to day. And that's sort of what I'm hoping to kind of pick up with.
And it's also good to remind everyone else out there, yeah, not every single thing you want to happen will happen in a year, but look at all these great things that have happened, like the new show that you're on and how exciting all of that is. So outside of the next goal, starting to teach online, do you have some really big career goals? Do you want to host your own show, have your own bakery? What would be pie in the sky, greatest thing that could happen for your career?
Greatest thing that could happen would be hosting my own cake show. I think I'm a little bit funny. I think I know all about the cake things. I think that it would be really cool. I don't know. That is like my dream if it just fell out of the sky. I would absolutely love that. And so a lot of people tell me, I've actually had someone tell me like, oh my God, you're on another show. Like, are you like obsessed with being on shows? And I was like, yes. So I am an adrenaline junkie. And also, out of the shows that I've done, I've won 4 of them, which is, I really feel still, it doesn't make sense to me. I'm like, how is this possible? So, like, you make money for these shows sometimes, even when you don't win. So it's a job. And I love that. And so and also, I live my life on this yes girl principle. So even if, unless it's something I truly don't want to do and I'm just not right for it, and also if it's weird, but let's say I get a call or an opportunity, and if I'm interested in the least, I'm going to say yes. So even if I'm not qualified really, right? You're like, this is higher than what I feel like I might be able to rise up to. I'm not sure. Something like that, let's say. I like to say yes to it because usually you're going to rise to the occasion, and so the first step in doing anything is just to say yes. So, I'm just going to keep on doing that. And then hopefully one day I'll get a call.
I love it so much. That is so great. And you're so brave to do that and such an inspiration. And thank you for saying that. There's so many kids listen, especially to the folks who've done the baking challenges. And that's such a great piece of advice for them to hear. I know we touched on it a little bit before about the unicycle. Do you have any other advice that you would give to somebody who wants to be on one of these shows or who just genuinely just looks up to you?
Yes. So I have told so many people this, and even my students, whenever I was a teacher, it's so important that if you want to do something, and it is simple. It seems hard and it seems far off. It's like, gosh, you're watching someone on TV and it's like, how could I be that person? Or you see some successful business person and you're like, how can I get there? And the process of getting there starts with trying. So, and you have to do it, right? It's just a weird thing. So, for example, whenever I wanted to be on Cake Wars, I was watching the show and I was like, these people are regular people and they all, they come from these, home lives and all this. It was a simple Google search and it was just, how can I get on Cake Wars? And so I would say at the very minimum, Google whatever you want to do. And there's going to be a first step. And likely the first step was Googling it and you're already on step 2. So that would be my advice. And it's just like, don't think that anything's out of reach because even sometimes I'll think that, like, even when I know 100% it's not, because the bounty of experiences and just life riches that cakes have brought into my life, I would have never thought that possible, even when I went on my very first show. And so that's it. That's my biggest advice to kids, to adults. It's never too late. You're never too old. You're never too young, because there's shows for kids. There's opportunities for kids. I mean, I see like, cause now with the accessibility of like TikTok and like all of this stuff, I'm seeing these young children like baking cakes that look amazing. And I'm just so happy that they have someone in their life that really pushed them to follow whatever dream they might have because they're ahead of it already.
Completely agree. And great to the parents for allowing them to make a mess in the kitchen because
Absolutely. That is why I
get it.
cannot cook. My mom never, and she says it to this day. She's like, you're coming in my kitchen making messes. I'm like, you didn't teach me how to cook, Mom. I can't. So, but yeah, kudos to the parents for supporting the children and for the children for having the courage and everyone else, so.
Absolutely. Now, I can't imagine that you have any regrets for being on these shows. It sounds like you've had nothing but amazing opportunities and amazing experiences, which I love to hear. But is there anything you wish you could go back and do differently?
Yeah. So there's only I just feel like I'm talking about Is It Cake the whole time, I guess, because it was just such a long running show.
Yeah.
I have 2. And everyone sort of like wants to be like, no regrets. Like, no, okay. I will be learning from my mistakes. So
Yeah.
on Is It Cake 2, for the round that I got eliminated, that there was one cake. I just wish I would have chose a different cake. Like, I'll always go back and replay that episode. There was one that was a trash can. And I was like, oh no, that's too big. Like, let me do this. I really wish I would have picked the trash can. Like, that's just something, I guess, always kind of when you look back at failure or whatever. That would be it for that one. And then on Harry Potter, which was super humbling, and spoiler alert, but it's already out in the world, I got eliminated on episode 1. So I had a partner. I know it was like, what? But it has to happen to you at
Hard.
some point.
Yeah.
Yes. And it just fuels me up even more. But I worked with a partner that I had never met before. That was the first time I'd ever done that. His name is Johan Lebescon, and he is from France. He's amazing. And we did our very first cake, which was beautiful. And I just like sometimes wish like we would have like you want to be in a competition, like you could write a book about it. It's not only about the cake, right? It's about the way you approach it, how you prepare, how you walk in there, how you talk to the producers. I mean, I'm telling you, I come after 7 shows, it's a science. It's as much about how you're handling it as it is the cake. And usually I'm like, go for the gusto, like just do some wild stuff. But on this show, we were like, we don't really know each other. We've never worked together before. So we kind of kept it like smaller, a little tamed. And I think that just sort of like let me know for the future, like, okay, no, don't just always go all out, because you never know what's going to be your last show or your last episode. So.
Oh, I love it. And I love that you're okay with talking about, I was the first one eliminated. When I started this podcast, I'd reached out to somebody, and if he hears this, I'm saying this with love, a gentleman who had been let go from Top Chef first, and he was just wrecked about it. And he's a great chef. And I wanted to interview him. And so many people are like, no, I just want to erase it from my career. I just want to pretend like it didn't happen. And it's like, somebody has to go home first.
Yeah.
And I think that comes with maturity. So if you're listening, and I doubt he is, but I'm coming at it from love, but somebody has to go home first. And sometimes, they're the best and they just had a bad day. And I love that you're able to talk about that, because I always love to tell people that failure is your best friend. You go out there and you fail and you learn from it and something else comes from it and it just keeps going. And I love that. Thank you
You
for.
will, of course, you will learn more from failure than you will from coming out on top. So that's number one. And whoever that guy is, like, I really hope he does more competitions, because, it's not always going to be that way. And when it is, you just bounce back. In my case, it was so weird because I have come out on several competitions on top. And so now, and it's sort of like what people expect from you. So everyone's just expecting that, like, and I would already know the outcome. People like, I know you won. I know you won. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, no, I did not. But I didn't say that. I was just letting it unroll, unveil itself. And I know, and even in that competition, I wasn't the only one that went home first on that day, but it's like there were some other people that went home first, and it's so hard because you're facing like failure, like complete, like you're not good enough, like you have to leave now. But if you look at it, like you sort of sign your life away to these shows, and it is TV, and they are gonna, they know what they want to see, and if your cake isn't the one, it's not the one, and so I look at it like that, and that kind of helps me not be so sad.
No, and I think that's great. Are you trying out for any new shows? Do you have a dream show on the horizon? What's going on now with all of that?
Okay, so usually after, I'm sure so after you do a show, you have a contract where you cannot enter into any new contracts for like up to, it could be 6 months or a year. I think mine would be 6 months. I can't really remember, but there's some leeway in this. So usually shows just contact me, but I have my eye on a show. So I want to be on, I saw it's the first season. I don't even know if they're going to have a second season. I really need to look it up. It was on Amazon Prime. It's called Killer Cake. And I saw that and I was like, wait a second, because they have Halloween wars and all of this stuff, but you can't show like blood and gore and like realism. And as bright and blonde as I am, and I love pink, like I don't think people might think that I love that stuff, but I really do. And so when I saw that, I was like, oh man, I want to get on that show. So I actually need to look it up, because sometimes you can just look it up and they'll be casting. But yeah, I don't have anything in the works. I always answer phone calls that come from California or New York, because usually it's a casting call. But that's kind of like, I don't know. I'm into it. I'm ready for it. And hopefully maybe you'll see me on Killer Cake.
I love it. I hope so.
Bringing
And
that
I'm
to
going
the
to have to
universe.
check. Yeah, yeah, definitely putting that out into the universe. You hear us, Killer Cakes. Kayla wants
Yeah.
to be on.
Yeah.
I love it. Now, you had mentioned that you were just learning to cook. How's that going?
It's going really well. So just like trying all these things, like calling my mom, calling my dad, like, how do you do this? How do you do that? So I've got gumbo down. Totally good. It's amazing. I just made it for the whole family and they loved it. So I was like, yeah. Like crawfish etouffee, all these Louisiana dishes, baked chicken is baked. So I knew that I'd be good on that. And so, yeah, so I'm trying here. And my biggest critic is my daughter. She is 11 and that girl loves to eat and she is not afraid to ask for the seasoning. She's like, where's the seasoning?
Good girl.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it. Would you ever do a cooking reality show or if you felt
Yeah.
comfortable enough?
Yes, I actually would. Now, I feel like I would need to be on those like not the worst cooks, because I'm getting there. But I need to be one of those like beginner, like I don't know, something like not really a nailed it, but sort of close to it of
Yeah.
cooking. I don't know if that exists. But yeah, because I don't know the Louisiana art. I mean, I guess any cooking is just like a little bit of this, measuring with love, you measure with your heart. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
So I feel like I don't know all these technical cooking things. Like sometimes I'll watch like B Bobby Flay and they're all flambeing or I don't know what they're doing, like whatever cooking words. And I'm like, oh God, I don't know what that is. So I don't know. I would need a little time, but I would do it.
It's
I'm a yes girl.
all right. I love it. I love it. I could see you on MasterChef because I know they do a lot of baking in that show. And so I'm like, she'd be
Okay.
great.
Yes, I could do
I need to call a few friends from that show and get
yes.
her.
Yes.
So all of these different great shows that you've been on, where can we watch them for, people listening who maybe only know you from one of them? Where can we watch all of these? And can you also tell us, social media? Are you doing anything online? All of that.
Okay, so I know it's so crazy now with all the streaming, it's like it's at your fingertips. So I know some of the older shows like Cake Wars, Cake Works Champs, and like all those Santa's Baking Blizzard, you can get them on Prime. Of course, I think you have to like pay for them. Hulu has some of them for free. Um, Food Network now streams on Max. So I haven't actually checked for those shows on Max, but I know for sure that the Harry Potter show is on Max and, also Food Network and anything that has Food Network, you can get it there. Is It Cake is on Netflix and Netflix only. So that one's really easy to find because that show is just thriving. And I'm on the second season. So of course, I'm on the season where they started eliminating people. Like I couldn't be on season one where we're just there for a good time. But I still loved it. So as far as my social media, yes, I have all the social media things. So my brand or my business, I guess, is called Cheers to Cake. I like live for a cheers. Whether you're cheersing with a piece of cake, cheersing with some bubbles, I love that. So, because like life is a celebration. Like if you're not, I mean, it can be if you want it to be. But anyway, so Cheers to Cake is my handle for most things on Facebook, on TikTok, Instagram. For some reason, it was taken. It's like I was trying to get this person, but like they've only posted one thing. It didn't work. So it's Cheers to Cake Kayla on there. Um, so yeah, you can find me on all these social media outlets and also my website is just cheerstocake.com. And then hopefully soon there will be links maybe to some online classes. But for now, it's in-person classes here in Lafayette, Louisiana. So that's what I got.
I love it. Well, thank you so, so much. Is there anything else that you wanted to share with us?
Man, I really think we touched it all. Thank you so much for having me. I love being able to share my experiences and just share like the drive, for people who might be thinking about taking the next step in some crazy adventure. So I really love this opportunity. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for being on. And anyone listening or watching, I will make sure to put all of Kayla's information in the show notes. So if you're like in the car, don't worry, I've got you. You're still going to be able to get to her Instagram page later. And Kayla, thank you so much again for making time, for being a yes girl. I love it so, so much. You're such an inspiration. And thank you for helping me kick off season 2 of Who's Reality Cooking.